Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Festival of Electronics and Video Games. And my name is Dennis Mbuthia. I will be presenting about video games and education. Yeah. So, so who am I? I am a game designer. I have been a student of game design for a while, just learning the ropes from having different mentors around. And I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. But previously, I started off as an engineer and also as an animator. That's my background. But because of the love of games, I have been consistently following through my educational life. And that's why we are here so far. And I have worked on two games. One, a virtual game, which is Downstream. A virtual game, which is the Hamster Run. This was based off the Havoc game engine, and then the Downstream, which is a board game that teaches people about using water at home and understanding of the water resources around them. And I teach animation and games. So now we'll be delving into talking about a bit about the CreaTech Lab, which is a partnership between Rubica um, and ADMI. And ADMI has been present in Kenya for quite some time, since 2016, and has been able to give in quite a number of students. And so what has happened is that we partnered with Rubica to be able to bring in a new course in game design and development, which has not been there in the country. It's the only school that is providing this in Eastern Central Africa. And and then after this, there's an incubation program of 6 months for animation, and also a couple of partnerships that have come up that would give our students an opportunity to have indie spaces where they can be able to work off from and start their journey as game designers. So let me delve now further into a bit now the history of ADMI. So it's a creative media and technology school that basically offers practical courses. Everything is practical oriented. Nothing is just left to chance in terms of um, not just being theoretical all the way through, but it's always going to be practical. So the ones that we do have that we've been very well known for is film and TV production. Then now comes in the Rubica game design and development with also the 2D animation. Then we also have animation and motion graphics. We also have digital media, which was traditionally known as journalism and multimedia. Then you have music production and sound production, and graphic design, and photography, and multimedia design. Yep. Next slide. So it's a Pan-African institution where we have students from 21 countries within Africa, and just being housed within the Nairobi campus. And currently, before COVID hit, we had about 500 students on site. And so right now we are having more of blended classes, where we have some of them online and others physically in school. And we have a unique learn and work model, which incorporates highly technical training that is with the industry experts, people who are actually working within the industry, and then which would also give them the opportunity to work in for industry exposure, and give them internships. And also we have a special unit which we call Career Launchpad, where it focuses largely on the soft skills of the students, such that not only do they come out having the technical know-how of being able to do what they need to to do or what they're employed to do, but over and above that, they have good interpersonal skills and things that make it easy for somebody to work with them, and those soft skills are really necessary. So some of the achievements that have been there is that our students have worked on Sense8, an award-winning TV series. They've also worked on Watu Wote, which was an Oscar-nominated short film. And we've also had on 2 years, 2017, 2018, we've had our students in the Adobe Design Achievement Awards, and where they were second runner-ups. Then comes in Rubica. Rubica has 30 years experience. Since 1988, it has been training people in animation and in games development. And so they've been teaching a lot of these skills professionally, and it has enabled them to be a reference, to be the main reference when it comes to animation, video games, and also in design within the country. And they still consistently are doing so and producing more and more persons. So they mainly have 3 courses. They also have they have a degree level and master's level for animation, games, and also on design. Next slide. It's so they also have an interesting simple model where it supports their students in their creative vocation, turning their passion into profession. This was something that was interesting when they were working on the partnership. All that they had been looking at so far, that was ADMI and Rubica. What they were looking at so far was more of the content, how are we able to, what are the students going to learn, what are the courses being offered. That the time they were actually signing the MOU is when they realized that they have the same slogan. ADMI slogan is turning passion uh, into turning passion into a profession, while for Rubica it's to turn their passion into profession of the future. So it was very interesting that we got a very good ground that the two of them merged on such a basis, and that shows the kind of quality now that was being brought up to. And also now historically, Rubica has always been adept in changing up their courses consistently, that is up to date with what is happening within the market. So like for instance in Kenya, when they realized that we have, yes, game developers, but we needed the formal education for it, then now they tweaked what they have been having such that it may be able to cater for our market without compromise in quality, and yet up to date with what is needed in the African continent. Next slide. So some of the achievements that they've had is several awards, with the Bolt Connection, which was catered as Best Animation, and Anarcute, which was the Best Student Game, based on Unity, and then there's Sameja, that was a student, also a student animation. Next slide. So let's now delve into the course itself. What is it within the Rubica game development design course itself, and the merger, and what it is that it gave birth to. So the course itself is a Rubica video game design and development course. It's a 3-year progressive degree, where the first year is taken as a certificate, the second year a diploma, and the third year as a degree. Each and every time that you're going through the years, in addition, you'll have an attachment experience at the end of each year. And what this does is that it enables a student to directly delve into the work environment with what they have learned, such that they don't just wait 2-3 years of just training and then now they go and try and implement them, but they immediately get to implement them as they go ahead. It will also give them the practical skills that they need to be able to meet the global demand for skilled video game developers. Next slide. So how was this course developed? Well, the first thing is that we had a market study, and that was to search that went to that was targeting Africa as in whole. And why this was necessary was so that we could be able to understand the specific needs that needed to come into the course itself. And then after that, that's when we brought in experts now from Rubica, to who helped in curating the course itself. And as you can see, the one of them is there. He's called Ian, the cleric. He was one of the. He's been our support. He's been our support throughout this entire process. So he's been, and he has 20 years of 20 plus years of experience as a game designer. He's worked on at Ubisoft, where he developed Rayman 2 and Batman Shutsu. He has quite a bit of knowledge, and he's also been teaching the same, and not only in France, Valenciennes, but he was also teaching in Rubica, India. And currently he is the international program manager for the satellite campuses for Rubica. So what are the core ingredients that make this program amazing? One is that it was tailored to the local market. Firstly, we get to realize that in Africa, we are mostly mobile oriented. That's where most people are using and playing their games, and that's what is affordable. And that, so even the course itself has been generally geared towards development of mobile phone compatible games. But and essentially, whatever, that's the optimization bit of it. However, these skills that are being used are they are skills that are transferable across, whether it's going to be on web or on console or on PC. They're easily adapted because they understand what needs the requirements for each and every particular item. Then it's fully project oriented, and then we have talented trainers who are there. So in addition to just having Ian as part of our support services, even the lecturers who are in also are they are developers themselves, and they have been uh, doing they have been doing their own development of games, and have so far been successful in their work. And that now combines what I mentioned about yeah, working with people who completely understand what it is that they are doing, and it's not just theoretical, it's practical. Oh yeah, and then the interesting thing about the core ingredient is that we don't have homework. Yeah. Then, so the coursework. The coursework has been divided into the core categories that are needed specifically for any game design individual. And the curation of this is so that somebody may be able to fully do their own work, even as an independent developer. So we have them doing game design, level design, yes, which is a subset of game design. They also do game programming, and they also do game art, sound design, and project management. And so the game art here is just on the beginning level. It's not going to be too detailed because we don't have time for it to be completely done. But the core thing is, if you can be able to understand what are the things that are needed to make the game, then it's going to be very easy for them to work with other people across departments, which we are currently working on, to make sure that there is a seamless integration of the artistic skills that are ready. Then we have Andrew Atiani, who's a student, and he's a passionate game developer who wants to, try and capture the African culture just to preserve our heritage. Next. So herein I will delve into Game Design 101. So start of the next presentation. This is just going to be a sample for you to get to see how it is that we run things within the school. Okay. So firstly, we begin with what is game design. It's the implementation of a story or a game idea into a playable form. So a game designer's main idea is, first thing is what is the idea that we have to do at the moment? What do we want to portray? What do we want to what do we want the game to be about? Once that is done, now the game designer's work begins to try and break things down into manageable levels of understanding, into breaking down into rewards, into challenges, into the characters who are going to carry the day, what kind of enemies are you going to have, what platforms are you going to work on, what puzzles are going to be necessary. Even to an extent, we get to now start getting to look at what would be the best way of interaction for the player. Is it going to be what's the focus first? Is it going to be on mobile? Is it going to be on console? And what's it going to be on PC? And then it helps us be able to make the choices that are necessary and relevant to be able to start off um, the journey of making the game itself. Next slide. How do we do this? So you first of all define the gameplay experience. That's the main thing that you're always doing as a game designer. You're making sure that the experience of the person who is playing the game is either fun, either somebody is going to be frustrated, whether they're going to be happy, whether they're going to fall in love, whether they're going to be in tears, or they're going to be really, really angry. And all this is just because of how your play experience is. So, and this comes in the choices of the persons you are going to have as your obstacles, your enemies. How is it going to be a very compelling game, or is it going to be like the journey? When you're playing journey, it's so smooth, just the flowing of the scarf there, and when it's going on the wind, it's very mellow, and you're constantly just thinking about the world that it's giving you. Um, really makes the experience amazing for you. It already gives you a mindset that this is an amazing place. It's different from anything that you've seen before. And that's the experience that you want to create. Next slide. So now, what is gameplay? Now, gameplay is how the player interacts with the game world. Okay? And in this case, each person there, and this is made between the connection between the plot of the story. What is the story about? What are we talking about? What is this story going to, what's going to unfold in this story? So here you usually would choose a particular character who's coming on board. What are their motivations? What do they want to do? What is the theme? What is the idea that you want to push across? So once you understand what the motivation of your character is, then you give them objectives for them to achieve. So if, let's say, you're going to make a game about serving people food, for instance, and that's the joy and that's the passion of what you really, really want to do. So then you'd come up with a plot. Why does this person, you have to have a backstory, why does this person want to love food so much? Maybe it's what saved their life, for instance. And then you have to give them objectives. So how do you become a good cook? Or if you are supposed to own a restaurant, then how do you go about it? You need to serve your guests, so you need to give them objectives. That, okay, so you need to put up your skill level, you need to know your ingredients, you need to know how to combine different things so that somebody may be able to see and understand it. And then now you start giving them challenges. So you give them an objective, like you need to serve 5 customers within the next 5 minutes. Now that's a challenge. The challenge in this case was the 5 minutes. Okay, the objective was to serve customers, but once you add the challenge that you need to do it within a certain amount of a duration of time, then now it becomes a challenge. See, so now now it's upon now the player to try and figure out, how am I going to quickly serve all these people, get the right orders, and all. And then even when you're doing these challenges, you have rules that need to be observed, and these rules are broken down into one, that you can't probably you can't put let me see a food example. For instance, we know that we should have fruits 30 minutes before, and either eating, or 30 minutes or an hour after eating. So in this case, that could be one of the rules, that you cannot serve a customer fruits fast if your game is also, what is the objective of the game? Is it about healthy eating? That's another thing. If it's about healthy eating, then you'd have to follow some of the rules, and one of the rules is you need to eat first your fruits 30 minutes before, and then then you serve the main course, and then whatever dessert there is. So that could be a rule. So you need to figure out those rules that somebody needs to work on. And then the mechanics. Now the mechanics in this case are how are the logical states that interact with, that give an opportunity for a change to happen in the game system. Okay, and in short, it's being able to perform your actions, the necessary actions for you to obtain your objectives and your goals. Next slide. Now, as a game designer, there is a big dance that we always have to work on, and this dance is called flow. Why? Because we need to make sure that somebody is consistently inspired to actually want to continue playing the game. And to do this, you have to look at the skill level that somebody is going, and that if you look at that graph down there, you can see the skills. As you're beginning any game, your skills are zero; they're non-existent. But as you continue with time, your skills get better. And the same thing, you need to also, the challenges also become greater and greater. Just like a child, the first time all they're just doing is just suckling and sleeping, and then as they continue, they start facing challenges of them wanting to talk, them wanting to teeth, wanting to sit down, wanting to crawl, and then finally they can be able to walk and run. And all of this are just according to the skills that they are learning slowly by slowly. And then 1 year down the line, the child can now walk, play with other kids, be able to communicate effectively, and that also will give them the anticipation of wanting to continue. Okay, what's next? And you all know how you all felt when you had that you need, before you are able to drive, you need to get your ID, your driving license and stuff. That it was an incentive for you to want to get older. So similarly, that's the same thing here. Looking at the skills that you have been learning and looking at the challenges that you're experiencing, then you have to find that channel that you're seeing there, that flow channel that's there. Because if your skill set is very low, and we give you something very challenging, you become very anxious, and then you cannot be able to function. You don't know what to do, and then all of a sudden you can get bored and frustrated. Actually, the frustration is when you have very low skill sets, and then you're already being challenged on very high, really big things. I had an incident where I asked the parent, uh, someone who was 4 classes ahead of me. This was back in primary school, where a senior student came into our class, and then he gave us this math problem for divisions, and we had only done division of up to two digits, like 14, 48, 99 and such. But he came and gave us one for 5. We're like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, how do you even do this? We didn't understand it. So, and then that's when he took us through it, that's when you got to understand. But initially you are all frustrated and anxious. So same thing, you need to level out your challenges together with the skill sets, such that somebody may always feel that, no, actually my skill set is okay with this challenge and I want to continue. What's the next challenging thing? Will I be able to make it? Can I be able to do this? That's the thing, and that's how you exercise flow. And that is a very key dance when it comes to game design. Like, if anything, if this entire talk you cannot remember anything, this is one thing that you need to remember: being able to match the challenges that you're giving a player with the skill sets that they should have learned by the time they're getting into contact with those challenges. Next slide. Game mechanics. This is what I had mentioned before. This is an action that changes the logical state of a game and affects the game system. And this can be several things, from even just taking turns when you're playing the game, the turn-based games where, you play your part first and then the other person plays next. All this is now a good example of, just like when you're playing, so an example would be like Monopoly. But then the other thing is, how in Monopoly, how actually are you going to play the game? So, and what's going to change the game state? So I have a pawn and it's on the table, and I want to, move the spaces. I need to change the logical state of the game. And the only thing that is available to me is a random dice. Okay, so I just take the dice, and roll it out, and whatever I get, I move to that number, and then I know what's going to be my next fate. Okay, so that's an example of a logic, the action that changes the logical state of a game, and then now it invokes something to happen in the game system for it to accept something new. Then another example is capture and eliminate. All you know is that you either need to capture someone, like when you're playing tag on the physical game, where when you need to tag someone, you need to run after them and capture them. That's one thing, and you have won just by you capturing that person. The game state again has changed to a point of victory. Okay, then there's a point of eliminate. When you're playing Call of Duty and you have an enemy appear in front of you, and you take your sniping rifle or your gun and you shoot them, and then immediately you get to eliminate them. And that game state again has changed by you, one, picking up the gun, two, pressing on the trigger, and then eventually the person getting eliminated. You still get the points for that, or you get the kill shot for that. Bidding in an auction. When an auction is being called out, you would end up having to give in the amount that you want to, purchase the item for, and then so you're already changing, and every time somebody bids, the price goes higher and higher and higher up until there's a plateau. So all these are changing states. Racing the clock, just like the example that I gave with the food, that you need to do it within 5 minutes. There's a clock, there's a time, that is the duration that you need to complete the action within, and that in itself is what is a mechanic to incentivize you to make an action and to do it within a certain amount of time. Yeah. Next time. So let's look at the game mechanics of Tetris. I don't know, if with what I mentioned so far, can you take a guess of some of the items that are there that would be in the matrix? Right, so just go ahead. So one of them is the rotational system. Remember, when you're playing Tetris, you wanted to keep on rotating the block so that it can be able to fit within certain places, right? So there is a rotational system that will change the mechanics towards it. Then there is a randomizer. You don't know which block is going to come in next. They just show you the immediate one, but you don't know what's going to come after the one that you're getting to see on screen. So you have to then it would be a bit interesting to try and figure out, okay, so what's next, where do I put this so that I can be able to make that straight row work. Then there's a scoring system. For each time that an entire row is done, you get some marks for it. Okay, and then you also have the mobility, being able to push the block to the left, to the right. You can even accelerate it coming down, but unfortunately you can't take it back up. Then there is one more that I have not mentioned here. Any guess? And I've mentioned it severally in the previous one. If you said time, yes, time is also another mechanic, because in this case we have a duration of time that you need to do it within, and you get an additional score until you move to the next level, and then you can be able to experience a much faster based Tetris game. Yeah, next slide. Okay, So with this in mind, we now start looking at the type of game designers. So we have there are quite a number, as you can get to see, and the reason is because they have specialities in different things. Okay, and so for example, here we have the lead designer, who is the one who just takes charge and guides the direction. This is the one who goes ahead and sees, keeps the vision and keeps the direction that people are going, the entire team is going to be at. Level designers actually come up with the challenges to a meager level of a of a level, looking at the challenges, the obstacles, where are you going to put them? Can our character jump this far? Can they be able to accomplish this level with this number of bullets? Can they be able to serve this number of people with this amount of time and with this amount of food and such? Then there's a content designer. This is what comes in within the game, whether it's a new game, or maybe what you find in the menus. That's one part. Then secondly, there are others who come up with maybe the lore of the game, where you're being told the backstory of a character, and they end up writing even the dialogue that the character is going to have. Then we have the technical designer. These are the systems designer, checking and making sure that everything in the back end is actually working together. They work together with the with the game programmers. They really assist one another in being able to tackle the systemic issues that may happen at the background when they're coming up and designing different mechanics for experiences that you'll be having. Then there's a UI UX designer, the interface that you get to see. How good is it being done? How easy is it for you to flow from one thing to the next? How easy is it for you to understand the different parts of the components? Can you be able to identify a coin from a treasure chest? Can you be able to identify this, this knife over this gun, so that it can give you the feedback that you require to know that you're progressing in the game? Then they have the senior designer, junior designers. This again, they kind of support. They're in support with the lead designers, and usually would kind of help in giving some a direction when they're actually designing the components of the game that are to be. Then there is game design. Then there's a game designer, and then there's uh, uh, the next one. So go on to the next slide. So here's an interesting fact that you did not know. And designers are team whisperers. What that means is they are the ones who gel the entire team together. Other than them just having a goal and a vision of how the entire project is to be, they know the idea behind the game, but they try and inspire each and every person within the pipeline, from the sound designers to the level designers to the artists, because they need to build elements that are going to be put in the game such that it will make the world come to life and become real. Without them, without the game designer, your game will work. It is actually true. You can actually make a game without being a game designer. But I will tell you for a fact, it will always be missing in something. For instance, for myself, when I got into the Intel Game Challenge in 2013, that was in here, we were given a 3 months training. And what happened is that we got to see different people. We had a competition between 75 people, like getting to see what can we be able to make within 3 months with the knowledge that you're having about the Havoc gaming engine. So what happened is, many people came up with games. The sample templates that were there, they were really amazing. People were able to understand them and make them and complete the games. But the one thing that most of the games were lacking on was the game design element. They hadn't thought through about how a character would, how the game would be inspiring to other people, how to make it effective, and balance out the challenges and make it amazing. And that's why, for me, I ended up becoming part of the top 10, and when presenting at least my game, and all the judges were all talking about the how interesting my game was, that it was just something pleasant. And when I tested it out with different people, that yes, I was a solo developer within for the game, but when I was testing out with people, who even don't play games, people who play games and people who don't play games, the one thing that they all said is that how they felt very calm after playing the game. And even when they were playing the game, it was calm, despite the fact that it was in a horrifying-ish kind of setting. And just because of the choices that I made when I was putting together that character, and that's the exact feeling that I wanted people to have, and it was. So it's in so game designers are team whisperers who assist in making sure that the project actually comes to pass in the best possible. Next slide. So the key thing about being a game designer is that they are good communicators, and they are also the glue of the team. And how do we communicate? Next slide. We usually come up with they document the entire process, and this is by use of the game design document. And this document becomes the Bible of your entire game. It contains all the necessary information that is needed for you to develop your game from beginning to the end. And of course, as for those of us who are independent developers, you may not have the luxury of being able to make a very detailed and complete document, because at times, especially when it comes to some of the tools that you may need even to craft and all, because some of them are just left out to the high-end games game companies. So but just with this, which just the game design document usually contains the artistic information. How do we want this game to look like? And then secondly, what are the core game features? What are the mechanics that are going to be involved? How mechanics going to be involved? What's the scoring system? How do we what does the UI UX look like? So that is all contained in here, and even the description of what is going to go into the sound. And you can already tell from just that document, you can be able to guide these different people on how they're going to make the different assets that they need to make that work. And that's why they become the glue of the whole thing. Next. So how do you become a game designer? And that's the thing. So now I've at least painted a picture of the various game design aspects that they are, and what goes into the mind of a game designer. And now, how do you actually hone your skills, or push yourself to become a good game designer? And here are some thoughts that I have in mind. Next slide. So one of them is, one, look at the real world scenarios around you. Be present in your world. Get to see how things are being done around you, because when you check out the world around you, it already has some set of rules. I've just given an example of an experience a child goes through. They will not be able to eat for when they are just born. They can't be able to eat. Why? The rule is, for you to eat, you need to have teeth. If you don't have teeth, then you cannot chew on food. So such are some of the rules that you'll get to go through. So study the world around you. Just don't go through just life just there, but be observant. Look at the regulations. Like right now with the whole of COVID, that one of the rules is you cannot get out of the house, or and go to a public area without a mask. You need to have that. You need to sanitize your hands regularly. That's what's happening. And this already gives you an opportunity to even create a game around it, because you understand. So when I started reading the book of Lenses by Jesse Shell, one thing that you'll understand is that you need to know, as a game designer, you need to know a little bit about everything. You don't have to be a master at it. You just need to know a little bit about it. Why? Because with that in mind, that experience will give you something on edge that will guide your game design skills. You now have an additional tool that you can be able to use just by observing. As you know, previously before COVID, the masks were only, being used by surgeons or people who visited your country and are uncomfortable, maybe because of their pollution levels that they may be, and you find them wearing masks, or they want to, hide something on their face or something. So in all of this, but now you've seen that it has become different, whereby it can actually be part of a game, where you've seen all this, come across some of these animations where they're showing the COVID virus trying to come and get into your nostrils or into your mouth, but it ends up hanging on your mask. But then, okay, so you're protected so far, but is it over? You're still going to go home and you're still going to put that mask down. So what are you going to do next? If you wear that mask the opposite side, the virus gets in. If you don't wash it when you get home, the virus gets in. So you see, those are just examples. That's something else now that you've added into your plethora of a library of game design rules that you can be able to put. Even if it's not directly, some of them can be implied. Another thing is to play games. Play games, multiple games. Currently, I think I have over 8 different games on my phone. Each and every time I'm testing out on something else, so that I may be able to see, okay, what is this person doing? How did they do that? What did they do here? And all. And that, what that does, again, it still builds up my library of information that I can be able to draw up whenever I want to make another game. And that's what and that's core within ADMI classes, where the students always constantly have to play a game, and not less than an hour every week, such that they may be able to learn from it and have an experience that will change their idea of how they're going to approach making a game. And then also break them down, and don't only just play the good ones, not only the AAA ones. Look at the ones that are done by independent developers. There's some really amazing games, that are really great. But you have to test them out. People are experimenting and looking for ways to entertain, and this would be very interesting for you. So explore and explore much more. Next. Yes, the next thing, level up. Start developing a game. Now that you've been learning from all these experiences with all these things around you, and you're playing those games and you're looking at the world around you, level up. Take a pen and a paper. Try and make something out of it. Try and make your own Dungeons and Dragons. Test games. Go ahead and ask people. You hear somebody doing some beta testing for a game, go ahead, go in, get to understand how these games are working. Are they broken? If they are broken, you now give constructive criticism. There's nothing as bad as criticism that is not helpful. Like, you just need to know how to give constructive criticism, such that you're not only going to give somebody a chance for them to improve on their game, but you'll also have the experience of knowing how to communicate with other people. If you're always just coming up with unconstructive criticism, people don't want you around. But if you tell me, your game does, all you're just telling me is like, let me actually give you examples of the criticism I'm talking about. So just unconstructive criticism is going ahead and saying, I don't like your game. I don't like it. So how have you helped? You haven't told me why. You haven't told me what's wrong with it. What can I improve on it? But it's very different when somebody says, I don't like the game because I don't like the colors that are in use. They feel like they're clashing, and also the sound. I think the sound would be much better if you had a faster tempo than this slow one, because I keep failing because I'm looking at I'm watching the slow tempo, or my mind is constantly thinking about the slow tempo. That immediately, that gives you an idea of the direction you should go, but not just blank criticism that doesn't help. So just be friendly. I mean, that's what you'd want somebody else to tell you. If they don't like something that you've created or made because of 1, 2, 3 things, you'd appreciate when somebody actually tells you so that you can improve on it and make it better. Next thing, collaborate. Don't be alone. Go ahead, work with other people. So I may have mentioned that during the Intel challenge, I was working alone. But the thing is, we were working. Yes, we were working alone, but I was within a class of other people, and we were helping each other out. We were collaborating. So somebody has a challenge here, stop on your development, go help them there. They also were coming to help me here, and it ended up making the game as it was. So the next time you have the opportunity to, please go ahead and collaborate. Right now, the internet is our friend. We are able to converse. Right now, I'm in Kenya. I'm seated in my sitting room, and yet you're where you are and you're watching this video. And I'm passing on information. And in the same way, you can be able to work with somebody else from another part of the world. You can be able to have the same game vision and be able to make something out of it. So, yeah. So comments and questions are welcome. Uh, Generally, that's how it goes. So you've had an experience of how it is in my class. So yeah. And then in case of any contact information, it should be on the next slide. Yeah, game over. Should be back in the previous presentation, the first slide. The last slide, sorry. Yeah, the last one. Yep. And so, yeah, so thank you for being able to make it for this talk. I hope it has piqued your interest in getting to understand and getting to see what the ADMI Rubica program is about. And, Rubica being finally within Africa, in Kenya. So all you game studios out there, just be on the lookout for ADMI. Go to our website, www.admi.ac.ke. And also, if you have any questions or you want to chat more, or even want me to test your game and give you feedback on your game, please, those are my contacts. That's my Kenyan number and my personal email address, and yeah, my handles. You can follow me as such. So great. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Maxa.